During an international flight, a billionaire faces his first real crisis. His baby won't stop crying. Nothing works, and he ends up being sent to the back of the plane, humiliated and exhausted. There, a humble child offers help and, with a gentle gesture, solves the problem effortlessly. This unexpected encounter sparks a connection that will transform them both in ways no one could have imagined. The crying echoed through the cabin like a relentless siren, cutting through the artificial silence of the night flight. Raphael Miller Coast squeezed his eyes shut, trying to control the frustration rising in his chest like incandescent lava. In his arms, little Leo, his 6-month-old son, squirmed in what seemed like endless despair. Red cheeks, clenched fists, a tense little body. Nothing worked. Absolutely nothing. Raphael had built an empire from scratch. At 42, he commanded one of the largest technology companies in the United States, with offices in 5 countries and revenues exceeding billions. He solved complex problems, negotiated multi-million-dollar contracts, and made decisions that affected thousands of people. But there, at 12,000 meters of altitude, on a flight from New York City to Miami, he was just an ordinary man, powerless before the inconsolable crying of his own son. The flight attendant approached for the 3rd time, with that professional smile that was already starting to crack at the edges. "Sir, perhaps it would be better if you moved to the back of the plane. The other passengers are complaining." Raphael felt his blood boil. He had paid $15,000 for those business-class seats. $15,000 to be treated like a nuisance, an inconvenience, a problem to be removed. He looked around and saw the disapproving glances, the loud sighs, the headphones being pressed harder against others' ears. A woman in a grey pantsuit stared at him with an expression that mixed irritation and disdain. A businessman next to her overtly rolled his eyes. Raphael felt something he had never experienced before, not with such overwhelming intensity. Shame, public humiliation. The dethroned king, expelled from his castle, pushed to the back of the plane like a second-class citizen. With Leo still screaming in his arms, Raphael grabbed the diaper bag and walked down the narrow aisle, under the disapproving gazes that followed him like spotlights. Each step was a defeat, each look a judgment. He who had always had control over everything was now controlled by a baby's cry. The irony was too cruel to ignore. Economy class was another world. Tight seats, people crammed together, the smell of reheated food mixed with stale air conditioning. Raphael slumped into an empty seat in the middle of the aircraft, exhausted. Leo kept crying, and he still didn't know what to do. He had already tried a bottle, a pacifier, improvised lullabies that sounded pathetic even to his own ears. Nothing. The baby seemed determined to cry until the end of time. That's when he heard a young but firm voice. "Sir, may I try?" Raphael looked up and saw a thin boy, simple in appearance, with a worn backpack on his back. He must have been about 14, maybe 15. Brown skin, slightly long curly hair, dark eyes that conveyed an inexplicable calm. He wore a faded t-shirt from a national rock band and worn sneakers. He was definitely not the type of person Raphael usually took advice from, but desperation spoke louder than pride. Raphael nodded, too tired to question. The boy approached, extended his arms with surprising confidence, and Raphael, in an act of total surrender, handed over his son. The boy settled Leo against his chest, in a specific position, and began to make gentle circular movements on the baby's back, with his fingers precisely positioned along the spine. "Sir, your son has colic. The flight's pressurization has trapped air in his intestines. This is common in such young babies. I'll help relieve it." The boy's voice was calm, almost professorial. Raphael was paralyzed watching that impossible scene. Who was that boy? How did he know that? In less than 3 minutes, something miraculous happened. The crying subsided. Leo sobbed a few times, his swollen eyes blinking slowly. And then, as if someone had pressed a button, the baby completely calmed down. 2 more minutes and he was asleep, breathing softly and regularly against the chest of the unknown boy. Raphael was speechless. He looked at his sleeping son, then at the teenager who was still making gentle movements, ensuring the baby remained comfortable. "How did you do that?" The question came out in an incredulous whisper. The boy smiled, a shy but genuine smile. "My younger sister had a lot of colic when she was a baby. My mom worked a lot. so I learned to take care of her. I read about massage techniques, studied about babies' digestive systems. Trial and error, you know, until it worked. Raphael sat next to the boy, still processing what he had just witnessed. You studied about this on your own. The boy nodded. I like to study, especially math and science. But when you have a little sister who cries all night, you learn whatever it takes to help. The simplicity of the answer completely disarmed Raphael. They started talking. The boy's name was Luke Harrison Smith. He was 14 and traveling alone for the first time in his life. Where to? To Miami as well, to participate in an international math Olympiad. He would represent the United States in a competition with students from 60 countries. Raphael felt a wave of genuine curiosity, something rare for him. A math Olympiad? Are you good at it? Luke shrugged, modest. They say so. I got a full scholarship at the public school where I study. I won all the state and national phases. Now it's the international stage. It's my first time leaving the United States. The conversation flowed with surprising naturalness. Luke spoke about his life in Camden, New Jersey, in the Philadelphia metropolitan area. He lived with his mother, Christine, who worked as a cleaning assistant in 3 different homes, and his sister, Gabrielle, who was 4 years old. His father had left home when Luke was 8 and never returned. He spoke without bitterness, merely stating facts, but Raphael could read between the lines the harshness of that reality. And how did you learn math so well? Raphael asked, genuinely interested. Luke smiled again, that smile that lit up his thin face. The internet, the public library, YouTube video lessons. I've always liked solving problems. It's like a giant puzzle, you know? Each equation is a riddle waiting to be deciphered. I started with basic things, then I moved on. I also learned programming, Python, JavaScript. I made some simple apps. Nothing too elaborate. Just for practice. Raphael listened, fascinated. There was a 14-year-old boy, coming from one of the toughest peripheries of Philadelphia, self-taught in advanced mathematics and programming, traveling alone to represent his country in an international competition. And he, Raphael, with all the world's resources, all the conveniences, all the open doors, had never put in even a tenth of that effort when he was the same age. Leo continued to sleep deeply in Luke's arms, completely peaceful. Raphael looked at his son and felt a strange pang in his chest. Gratitude, yes, but also something deeper, more disturbing. Admiration, respect, and an uncomfortable feeling that something was wrong with the world, with a system that allowed a talent like that to be hidden in a public school in Camden, New Jersey, depending on luck and his own determination to have a chance in life. How long will you be in Miami? Raphael asked, already formulating an idea in his head. Luke thought for a moment. The competition lasts 5 days. Then I'll go straight home. I don't know anyone there, so I'll stay at the hotel the organization provided. Raphael nodded slowly, making a decision that would change both their lives forever. Luke, I have a proposal for you. I'm going to be in Miami for 2 weeks for work. I need someone to help me with Leo. You clearly have a gift with babies. How about you accompany me during these days? I'll pay for a better hotel, food, and give you some financial help. You help me with my son, and I'll help you get to know the city. What do you think? Luke blinked, surprised. But sir, I don't know if I can. I have the competition, and then I need to go back. My mum is waiting. Raphael raised his hand reassuringly. You'll do the competition normally. That's the priority. Afterward, if you want and if your mother allows it, you can stay a few more days. We can call her now, explain everything. I guarantee you'll be safe and well cared for. And honestly, after what you did for my son, I owe you much more than a few days' stay. Luke remained silent, pondering. Raphael could see the conflict in the boy's eyes. The opportunity was tempting, but the responsibility weighed heavily. Finally, Luke nodded. So I need to talk to my mom first. But if she agrees, I accept. Raphael smiled, feeling a strange excitement, as if he was about to embark on a completely new and unexpected adventure. They spent the rest of the flight talking. Luke spoke about his passions, his dreams, his fears. He wanted to study engineering, perhaps computer science. He dreamed of creating technologies that could help people like his mother, who worked so hard and earned so little. Raphael, in turn, found himself sharing things he had never told anyone. He spoke about his own difficult childhood, about an emotionally absent father, about the loneliness of having everything and nothing at the same time. He spoke about his recent divorce, about how lost he felt regarding fatherhood, about the fear of failing Leo in the same way his father had failed him. When the plane landed in Miami at 4 in the morning, Raphael and Luke disembarked together, with Leo still sleeping peacefully. In the immigration line, Raphael called his assistant and gave instructions to book an additional room at the hotel, one of the best in South Beach. Meanwhile, Luke called his mother, explaining the situation with infinite patience, answering all of Christine's worried questions until she finally agreed, provided Luke participated in the competition and maintained daily contact. Leaving the airport, Raphael looked at the boy beside him, at his son in his arms, and felt that something had changed that night, something fundamental, irreversible. He didn't know yet what it was, but he knew that fortuitous encounter, that desperate cry of a baby, that unlikely boy from the last row of economy class, all of it was part of something bigger, something that was just beginning. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us from which city you are watching us. We continue. I promise this will be the best story you will ever hear. The first rays of sun invaded the hotel room when Luke woke up, disoriented for a few seconds. The bed was absurdly soft. The sheets had a lavender scent he had never smelled before, and through the window the Atlantic Ocean shone in an impossible blue. For an instant he thought he was dreaming. Then reality caught up with him and he smiled. He was really there in Miami, staying in a 5-star hotel, about to participate in the most important competition of his life. He took a long shower, marveling at the hot water pressure and the toiletries that seemed straight out of a magazine. He put on the most presentable clothes he had, dark jeans and a white polo shirt that his mother had bought especially for the trip, saving for months. He looked at himself in the mirror and tried to recognize himself. Luke Harrison Smith, from Camden, New Jersey, about to compete with the best math students in the world. The improbability of it all made him laugh to himself. Raphael knocked on the door at 7 in the morning, punctual as always. He had Leo in the stroller, already dressed and fed. "Good morning, champ." "Ready to ace it?" Luke nodded, trying to hide his nervousness. Raphael placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. "You're going to do great. I trust you." Those simple words had an unexpected effect. Luke felt his eyes sting. No one had ever said that to him with such conviction. The competition took place in a modern convention center, full of teenagers from all corners of the planet. Chinese, Indians, Russians, Americans, Europeans. All there for the same reasons, all brilliant in their own way. Luke registered, received his badge and test materials. Raphael stayed in the waiting area with Leo, promising he would be there when Luke finished. The first phase lasted 4 hours. Complex problems of algebra, geometry, number theory. Luke immersed himself in the questions with absolute concentration, forgetting the world around him. His mind worked like a well-oiled machine, identifying patterns, applying theorems, building proofs. When he handed in the test, he was exhausted but satisfied. He had given his best. Raphael was waiting for him with a wide smile. "So, how did it go?" Luke shrugged, but his eyes sparkled. "It was hard, but I think I did well. At least on the questions I managed to solve." Raphael laughed and ruffled the boy's hair. "I'm sure you crushed it. Shall we have lunch? I'm starving, and so is Leo." They had lunch at a beachfront restaurant with a view of the beach. Luke ate as if there were no tomorrow, savoring every mouthful of a steak that melted in his mouth, accompanied by rustic potatoes and a fresh salad. Raphael watched amused. "You eat like a real teenager." "It's good to see that." Luke blushed a little. "Sorry, it's just that at home the food isn't like this. It's not bad, my mom cooks really well. But it's different, you know." Raphael became serious for a moment. "I know, Luke, I know. The difference is that your mother cooks with love. That's worth more than any expensive restaurant." The comment took Luke by surprise. He hadn't expected that kind of understanding from someone so rich. Perhaps Raphael wasn't just another arrogant businessman. Perhaps there were more layers to that man than he had imagined. The following days were intense. Luke woke up early, participated in the competition phases, returned exhausted but always willing to help Raphael with Leo. At night, after the baby was asleep, they talked for hours. Raphael spoke about his journey, about how he had built his company from scratch, about the sacrifices and victories. Luke shared his programming projects, showed algorithms he had created, and explained complex mathematical concepts with an ease that deeply impressed Raphael. It was on the fourth night that Raphael asked the question that would change everything. "Luke, what do you want to do with your life? I mean, besides studying math, what do you dream for your future?" Luke was quiet for a long moment, looking at the ocean through the room's window. "I want my mom not to have to work so hard. I want to give my sister a better life, and I want to create things that can help other people like us. Technology that serves a real purpose, not just to make money." Raphael nodded slowly, absorbing every word. "And what if I told you that you can do all of that?" Luke looked at him, confused. "What do you mean?" Raphael leaned forward, his eyes shining intensely. "Luke, you have extraordinary talent, not just in math, but in solving problems, in understanding complex systems. You are intelligent, dedicated, humble. These qualities are rare, very rare. I want to help you develop that potential, not as charity, but as an investment. An investment in a person I believe will make a difference in the world." Luke felt his heart race. "What exactly are you talking about?" Raphael took a deep breath. "I'm talking about you becoming part of my family. Not legally, not immediately, but emotionally, affectionately. I want to fund your studies. I want to give you the opportunities you deserve. I want you to be able to develop your full potential without having to worry about money, without having to see your mother kill herself working. In return, all I ask is that you continue to be who you are, honest, dedicated, humble, and that when you can, you help others in the same way." Luke was speechless. It was too much, too fast, too big. But before he could respond, Raphael continued. "I know it sounds crazy. I know you must be thinking I'm a lunatic who just met you a few days ago. But Luke, I've spent my whole life surrounded by fake, self-serving people who only want something from me. You are different. You helped me without expecting anything in return. You took care of my son with a tenderness I myself never managed to show. You reminded me that there are still good people in this world, and I want to reciprocate that, not out of pity but out of genuine admiration." Luke felt tears stream down his face, unable to control them. No one had ever spoken to him like that. No one had ever seen so much in him. Raphael approached and placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. "You don't have to answer now. Think about it. Talk to your mother. Finish the competition. Then we'll talk again. Okay?" Luke nodded, unable to speak. On the day of the last phase of the competition, Luke was different. More confident, more focused. He sat down before the final test and, for the first time in his life, felt he had a greater purpose than just winning. He wasn't just there for himself. He was there for his mother, for his sister, for all the boys and girls from Camden, New Jersey who would never have that chance. And he was also there for Raphael and for Leo, who had entered his life so unexpectedly. The last question on the test was brutal, a number theory problem involving complex mathematical proof. Luke looked at it and instead of feeling fear, felt excitement. It was the kind of challenge he loved. He began to write, developing an approach he had never used before, combining concepts from different areas of mathematics. His hand flew across the paper, filling page after page with symbols, equations, proofs. When he finished, he looked at the result and smiled. He was sure he was right. 3 days later, in the packed auditorium, the results were announced. In third place, a Chinese student from Beijing. In second, a Russian girl from Moscow. And in first place, with one of the highest scores in the competition's history, Luke Harrison Smith from the United States. The auditorium erupted in applause. Luke walked onto the stage in a trance, received the gold medal and the trophy. He looked at the audience and found Raphael standing, applauding with Leo in his arms. The tears returned, but this time they were tears of pure, uncontrollable joy. After the ceremony, reporters surrounded Luke, wanting to know his story. How had a public school boy from the United States won an international competition? He answered with humility, crediting his victory to his teachers, his mother, and his determination. But when asked about his plans for the future, he looked at Raphael and said, "I have someone who believes in me, and that changes everything." That night in the hotel room, Raphael made the official proposal. "Luke, my offer still stands, more than ever, after seeing what you're capable of. I want you to come live with me in New York City. I'll enroll you in one of the best private schools in the country. I'll take care of your family, ensure your mother no longer needs to work 3 different jobs. Your sister will have the best possible education. All I ask in return is that you be yourself, and that when you grow up you do the same for others. Do you agree?" Luke didn't hesitate this time. He closed his eyes, thinking of his mother arriving home at 10 at night exhausted. He thought of Gabrielle playing alone while he studied. He thought of all the times he had gone hungry so there would be more food for them. And he also thought about what he could become with a real chance. He opened his eyes and extended his hand to Raphael. "I agree. But with one condition. I will never forget where I came from, and I will use everything you teach me to help other people like me." Raphael shook the boy's hand, feeling an emotion he hadn't felt in years. "You got it, champ. You got it." The taxi slowly climbed the hill in Camden, New Jersey, swerving to avoid potholes and loose stones on the dirt road. Raphael looked out the window, observing the simple houses, many unfinished with exposed bricks and flat roofs that served as future expansions or clothes lines. It was a world completely different from his own, and he felt a mix of discomfort and genuine curiosity. Luke beside him with Leo on his lap was tense, not out of shame, but because he didn't know how his mother would react to the whole situation. They had returned to the United States 2 days earlier. Luke had called Christine from the airport, telling her about the victory and Raphael's proposal. Her reaction had initially been one of suspicion, then disbelief, and finally a cautious hope that she tried to hide in her voice. She had asked Raphael to come to their house. She wanted to meet him personally, to look into the eyes of the man who was promising to change her son's life. The taxi stopped in front of a small house, painted a faded blue, with an iron door that creaked when Luke opened it. "Mom, I'm here," he called out, and immediately a woman emerged from the kitchen wiping her hands on a dish towel. Christine Harrison was 36, but looked older. Her face was marked by the sun and fatigue, her hands calloused, her hair tied in a practical bun. But when she smiled upon seeing her son, all the harshness of her face softened, and Raphael saw a simple and genuine beauty there. "Mom, this is Raphael, and this is Leo." Luke made the introductions with evident nervousness. Christine wiped her hands once more and extended it to Raphael, who shook it firmly and respectfully. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Harrison. Luke has told me a lot about you." Christine scrutinized Raphael from head to toe without disguising it. The impeccable suit, the expensive watch, the Italian leather shoes. Everything about him screamed money, but she was looking for something else. She was looking for sincerity. "Please come in. The house is simple, but it's clean." Raphael entered, followed by Luke. The living room was tiny, with a mended 2-seater sofa, an old television set on a makeshift shelf made of bricks and planks. The walls had some damp spots in certain corners, but they were clean and adorned with photos of Luke and Gabrielle from various moments of their childhood. It was a poor house, but not neglected. Every corner showed the care of someone who, despite having little, cherished what they had. Gabrielle appeared from the bedroom, shy, hiding behind her mother's skirt. She was a miniature of Luke, with the same dark eyes and the same shy smile. "Hi, Gabby." Luke bent down and opened his arms, and the girl ran to him, hugging her brother tightly. "I missed you," she whispered, and Raphael felt a pang in his chest. That family had so little, but they had something he had never been able to build. Real connection, unconditional love. Christine served coffee and simple cookies, apologizing for the modesty. Raphael dismissed the apologies with a gesture. "Please don't apologize. Your home is welcoming and full of love. That's worth more than any mansion." Christine studied him again, this time with less suspicion. "So you want to help my son? Why?" The question was direct, without beating around the bush. Raphael appreciated her sincerity. He took a deep breath before responding. "Mrs. Harrison, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I met your son by chance, at a moment when I was completely lost. My son was crying nonstop and I didn't know what to do. Luke appeared, and in minutes solved a problem I couldn't solve on my own. But it wasn't just that. In the days we spent together, I discovered something rare in him. Intelligence, yes, but also humility, empathy, determination, qualities that aren't taught in any school. And I want to help him not out of pity, but because I believe he can do extraordinary things if he has the right opportunities." Christine remained silent, processing. And what do you gain from this? Raphael smiled. An honest answer. I gain the chance to make a difference in the life of someone who deserves it. I gain the opportunity to see my son grow up with an example of a good person nearby. And selfishly, I gain the chance to redeem myself for all the years I was selfish and only thought about myself. The answer caught Christine by surprise. She looked at Luke, who was sitting on the floor playing with Gabriel and holding Leo. She looked at the son she had raised practically alone, working 16 hours a day, giving up everything so he would at least have the basics. She felt pride but also weariness. Fair deep weariness accumulated from years and years of struggle. Do you have family? She asked. Raphael nodded. I'm divorced. Leo is my only child. My parents are still alive, but our relationship is complicated. I was never close to them. In fact, I was never close to anyone until I met your son. Christine nodded, understanding more than he had said. Sometimes the richest people are the loneliest. They talked for hours. Christine asked all the questions a protective mother would. Where would Luke live? What would the school be like? Could he visit her whenever he wanted? And what about Gabriel? Raphael answered everything patiently, explaining that Luke would live in a separate room in his penthouse in New York City, that he would study at Westfield Academy, one of the best schools in the country, that he could return to Philadelphia every month if he wished, and that Gabriel and Christine would also be taken care of. It was at this point that Christine raised her hand, interrupting. Wait, taken care of how? Raphael leaned forward. Mrs. Harrison, with all due respect, you work in 3 different homes, leave home at 5 in the morning and return at 10 at night. That's not fair. Not to you, not to Gabriel. I want to help. I can pay for better rent, in a house in good condition. I can ensure Gabriel studies at a good school. And I can offer you a job at my company if you wish. Not as a favor, but because I know you are hardworking and dedicated. Christine turned pale. It's too much. I can't accept. Not like this. Raphael shook his head. With all due respect, Mrs. Harrison, you can. And you should. Not for me, but for your children. Luke deserves to have a rested mother when he comes back to visit. Gabriel deserves to have her mother present in her life. And you deserve to rest after so long fighting alone. Tears streamed down Christine's face before she could control them. Luke quickly stood up and hugged his mother, whispering words of comfort. It's okay, Mom, you deserve this. We deserve it. Christine sobbed against her son's shoulder, years of weariness and sacrifice spilling out in those tears. When she composed herself, she looked at Raphael with new firmness. Mr. Miller, I will accept your help, but not because I need it, but because my son deserves this chance. And I will make one thing clear. If you hurt my son in any way, if you use him or take advantage of him, you will have to answer to me. Understood? Raphael smiled, a genuine smile full of respect. Understood, Mrs. Harrison, and I promise I will take care of him as if he were my own son. In fact, if you allow me, I would like him to be like a son to me. Not to replace you, never, but to complement. To be another adult who cares about him and wants to see him grow. Christine nodded, still with tears in her eyes. It can be, as long as he never forgets where he came from. Raphael placed his hand over his heart. That I guarantee will never happen. The conversation extended through the afternoon. Raphael got to know the neighborhood, saw where Luke had grown up, talked with curious neighbors who appeared. He met Mrs. Mary, the woman who took care of Gabriel when Christine was working. He met Mr. Jeremy, the owner of the corner bar who always gave Luke a glass of cold water when he returned from school. As dusk fell, while the sky turned orange over the hill, Raphael stood on the porch of the small house looking at the view. Luke joined him in silence. It's beautiful from here, Raphael finally said. Luke nodded. It's my home. Always has been, and always will be, Raphael replied. No matter where you go to live, no matter what you achieve, this place is part of you. And that's something precious you cannot lose. Luke looked at Raphael, surprised by his understanding. You really do understand, don't you? Raphael smiled sadly. I understand more than you imagine. I grew up poor too, you know. Not as poor as it is here, but difficult. When I got rich, I tried to forget all that. I thought if I pretended I had never been poor, I would be more respected. It was the biggest mistake of my life. I lost my essence. I'd lost my humility. I became just another arrogant businessman. Don't let that happen to you, Luke. Never forget your roots. Luke absorbed every word like a sponge. I promise I won't forget. Raphael placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. I know you won't. That's why I believe in you so much. As night fell, Raphael said goodbye to Christine and Gabriel, with promises to keep in constant contact. Christine hugged Luke for a long time, whispering recommendations and words of love. Take care of him, she said to Raphael, her voice choked. I will, he promised, and for the first time in a long time he felt he was doing the right thing. Raphael's penthouse in the Upper East Side, New York City, was a parallel universe. 300 square meters of pure luxury, with panoramic, city views, a balcony pool, home theater, private gym. Luke was paralyzed at the door when he saw it all for the first time. The room Raphael had prepared for him was larger than the entire house in Camden, New Jersey. It had a king-size bed, a noble wooden desk, empty bookshelves waiting to be filled with books, and a huge window overlooking New York City's illuminated skyline. It's yours, Raphael said, seeing Luke's stunned expression. You can decorate it however you want, put up posters, make a mess, do whatever you like. I want you to feel at home. Luke nodded, still speechless. He ran his hand over the soft bedspread, felt the texture of the carpet under his bare feet. All of it seemed unreal, as if he would wake up at any moment back in the bunk bed he shared with Gabrielle. The first few days were for adaptation. Raphael hired a personal assistant, Mrs. Constance, a kind lady who took care of the house, cooked, and helped with Leo. She treated Luke like a grandson from the very first moment, preparing his favorite foods, asking if he was comfortable, if he needed anything. Luke, accustomed to taking care of himself, initially found so much care strange, but soon surrendered to the woman's genuine affection. Enrollment at Westfield Academy was quick. Raphael used his contacts, and in less than a week Luke was uniformed with a new backpack, complete school supplies, and a state-of-the-art laptop that made his eyes shine. The night before his first day of school, Luke could barely sleep. A mix of excitement and fear. Excitement for finally having access to quality education. Fear of not fitting in, of being too different, of not being good enough. The first day confirmed his fears. He arrived at the academy by car with a driver, something that immediately drew attention. He stepped out of the vehicle and felt all eyes turned to him. The uniform was the same as the others, but there was something different. His way of walking, perhaps, the insecurity in his eyes. His hair that wasn't perfectly cut at an expensive salon. His sneakers that, despite being new, weren't the brand everyone wore. In the classroom, he sat alone at the back. The students talked in small groups, discussing international trips, beach house parties, shopping in Miami. Luke listened to it all in silence, feeling like an alien. During the break, he tried to approach some classmates, but conversations quickly died out. Who was he? Where had he come from? Why had they never seen him before? It was Marianne Ellis, a blonde girl with light eyes and a confident demeanor who broke the ice. But not in the way Luke expected. You're the scholarship kid, right? The one Raphael Miller is funding? Luke felt his blood run cold. How did she know? My dad knows you're tutor? Is that what he is? She continued with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Must be nice to have someone rich paying for everything for you. Like a modern fairy tale. The words had venom hidden beneath their false sweetness. Luke recognized it immediately. It wasn't genuine curiosity. It was provocation disguised as interest. He's my friend, Luke responded calmly. And he helps me because he wants to, not because he has to. Marianne laughed, a sharp laugh. Sure, friend. She walked away, but the damage was done. In minutes, the news spread. Luke was the poor kid being funded by a billionaire. The charity case of the moment. The following days were cruel. Whispers when he passed, muffled giggles. Comments about his backpack, his sneakers, his way of speaking. A group of boys, led by Philip Turner, son of a real estate magnate, was particularly cruel. They called him poor boy, asked if he had enough food at home, offered him handouts with malicious smiles. Luke endured in silence for weeks. He didn't want to worry Raphael. He didn't want to disappoint his mother. Every night he called Christine and said everything was fine, that school was great, that he was making friends. He lied naturally, shielding her from the truth. But inside he was breaking apart. He constantly questioned himself. Had he made the right choice? Was it worth trading dignity for opportunities? It was in an advanced math class that everything changed. The professor, a serious man named Dr. Augustus, was explaining a complex problem of differential calculus. Most students copied mechanically without understanding. Dr. Augustus asked if anyone knew how to solve it. Total silence, he insisted, offering extra points. Nothing. That's when Luke, for the first time since he had arrived at that school, timidly raised his hand. Dr. Augustus looked surprised. "Yes, Luke? Do you have a solution?" Luke stood up, nervous. "I think so, Professor. May I go to the board?" The professor nodded, curious. Luke walked to the front, under the mocking glances of some classmates. He picked up the chalk and began to write. He didn't use the traditional method in the textbook. He used a different, more elegant approach, combining concepts of linear algebra with calculus. The room fell silent as he wrote, page after page of equations flowing naturally. When he finished, he turned to the class. "It's possible to solve it this way, using the Laplace transform. It's faster and you can better visualize the function's behavior." Dr. Augustus was speechless. He looked at the board, checked every step, every calculation. It was perfect. More than perfect. It was brilliant. "That is correct," he said, his voice trembling slightly with surprise. "More than correct. It's exceptional. Luke, where did you learn this approach?" Luke shrugged. "I read about Laplace transforms in a library book. I found it interesting and practiced on my own. It seemed useful for this type of problem." The room erupted in murmurs. Dr. Augustus smiled broadly. "You studied that on your own?" Luke nodded, embarrassed by the attention. The professor applauded, and some students, genuinely impressed, joined in. But not everyone. Philip Turner scoffed loudly. "Big deal. He learned a little trick and wants to show off." Luke ignored him, but Dr. Augustus did not. "Mr. Turner, if it's so easy, why didn't you solve it?" Philip turned red, speechless. "Exactly," the professor concluded. "Intellectual respect is fundamental in this classroom. And Luke has just demonstrated something that half of you cannot, despite having all the advantages in the world. Perhaps you should learn something from him." The comment changed the dynamic. Some students began to see Luke with different eyes. He wasn't just the poor kid. He was the kid who had won an international Olympiad. He was the kid who understood advanced mathematics better than all of them. But others, like Philip and Marianne, only intensified their resentment. The attacks became more direct. Philip spread a rumor that Luke had only won the Olympiad because Raphael had bribed the judges. Marianne insinuated that there was something strange about the relationship between Luke and Raphael, planting malicious doubts. Luke heard it all, felt every blow, but refused to retaliate in the same way. It was Raphael who realized something was wrong. "Luke, what's going on at school?" he asked one evening while they were having dinner. Luke tried to deflect. "Nothing much, normal." Raphael didn't buy it. "Don't fool me. You're different." Quieter, more withdrawn. "Is someone bothering you?" Luke sighed, tired of lying. "Some students don't like me. They think I don't deserve to be there, that I'm just your charity project." Raphael felt anger rise but controlled himself. "And what do you think? Do you think you're a charity project?" Luke looked up, his eyes shining. "No, I know I'm not. I earned my place. I won that competition on my own. I study more than any of them. So I'm good at what I do." Raphael smiled. "Then show them. Not with words, but with actions. Keep being brilliant. Keep being yourself. Envious people will always exist, Luke. Anywhere, at any social level. Learn to ignore them and focus on what matters." Raphael's words echoed in Luke's mind in the following days. He stopped hiding. He began to participate more in classes, to raise his hand, to demonstrate his knowledge without fear. He created a study group with students who genuinely wanted to learn, ignoring those who only wanted to diminish him. He volunteered to help classmates who had difficulty, expecting nothing in return. Slowly, the tide began to turn. Teachers publicly praised his performance. Classmates began to respect him, some even to admire him. Luke was no longer the scholarship kid. He was Luke, the math genius. Luke, the Olympiad champion. Luke, the one you seek when you need help with a difficult problem. 2 months after classes began, Luke was in the library when a shy girl approached him. Her name was Amanda. She was quiet and went unnoticed. Hi, Luke. Can you help me with calculus? I'm terrible at it and have a test next week. Luke smiled. Of course. Sit here. They studied for 2 hours, and when Amanda finally understood the concept, her eyes shone with joy. You're an amazing teacher. How do you explain so well? Luke shrugged. I guess it's because I know what it's like not to understand. I've been there, and there's no shame in it. The shame is not trying to learn. Amanda looked at him with genuine admiration. You know, when you arrived, everyone spoke ill of you. But I think you're incredible. You're real, you know? You don't pretend to be something you're not. Luke felt warmth in his chest. Thank you, Amanda. That means a lot. And so, little by little, Luke built his place in that new world, not erasing where he came from, but using his roots as a driving force. 2 years passed like a breath and an eternity at the same time. Luke was 16 now, taller, more confident, but maintaining the humble essence that defined him. He had become not only one of the best students at Westfield Academy, but a reference. Other scholarship students sought him out for advice and support. He had created a volunteer mentoring project on Saturdays, where he helped public school students with math and programming, transmitting the knowledge he had acquired. Christine and Gabriel now lived in a comfortable apartment in Camden, New Jersey, very different from the little house on the hill. Christine had accepted an administrative job at Raphael's company, where she was respected and well paid. Gabriel studied at a private school, excelling in English and arts. Every time Luke returned to visit them, he felt immense gratitude at seeing his mother rested, without the deep, dark circles she used to carry. At Raphael's company, Luke had also become a constant presence. What started as casual visits transformed into something more significant. Raphael perceived in the boy a natural talent for solving complex problems, an unusual analytical capacity. He began to ask Luke's opinions on technology projects, optimization challenges, and operational efficiency issues. Luke never disappointed. He looked at problems with a fresh perspective, free from the biases and constraints of traditional corporate thinking. He suggested innovative, often simple solutions that saved time and money. On his own, he developed a logistics optimization algorithm that reduced distribution costs by 20%. He created an internal task management application that increased team productivity by 30%. The company's executives began to pay attention. Who was this teenager who was revolutionizing processes that specialists had failed to improve for years? Opinions were divided. Some admired him, recognizing his genuine talent. Others viewed him with suspicion, believing he had unfair advantages due to his proximity to the CEO. It was on a Thursday morning that Raphael called an extraordinary board meeting. All the vice presidents, directors, and senior managers were present, curious and apprehensive. Raphael rarely called such meetings without prior notice. What could be happening? A merger? An acquisition? A restructuring? Raphael entered the boardroom with Luke by his side, and a surprised murmur ran through the table. The boy was often there, but never in an official board meeting. He was dressed appropriately in dress pants and a shirt, but his nervousness was evident. Good morning, everyone, Raphael began, his voice firm and clear. I've called this meeting to make an important announcement that will change the structure of our company. The silence was absolute. All eyes were fixed on Raphael, waiting. Over the past 2 years, he continued, you've seen Luke around here frequently. Some of you have worked directly with him on specific projects. And I'm sure you've all noticed the exceptional results he has delivered. The projects Luke touched or collaborated on have generated so far savings of $12 million for the company. $12 million in just 2 years, working part-time while still attending high school. The numbers caused a visible impact. Some executives exchanged glances, re-evaluating their perceptions. Raphael continued. Luke is not just an intelligent boy. He is a visionary. He has a unique ability to identify problems and create elegant and effective solutions. More importantly, he works with an ethics and dedication that should inspire all of us. Therefore, I have decided to make him an official partner of this company. The bomb was dropped. A loud murmur swept through the room. Partner? A 16-year-old teenager? That was insane, unprecedented, impossible to justify. Raphael raised his hand, asking for silence. I know it may seem unusual, but Luke will receive 10% equity participation and an active voice in strategic decisions, related to technology and innovation. I am not doing this out of favoritism or sentimentality. I am doing it because the numbers prove his worth, because his vision is aligned with the future of the company, and because I believe that with him officially on board, we can multiply our results. One of the vice presidents, Dr. Henry Coast, a 50-year-old man with decades of experience, cleared his throat. With all due respect, Raphael, he's a minor. How would this work legally? Raphael smiled. I've already consulted our lawyers. The stake will be held in trust until Luke turns 18, when he will assume full control. Until then, he will have a consultative voice, but I will retain the decisive vote on his share. Another executive, Paula Anderson, Director of Operations, spoke up. Raphael, no one here doubts Luke's intelligence. But experience also counts. How will he handle complex corporate decisions, internal politics, negotiations? Raphael looked at Luke, who was pale but firm. I'll let him answer for himself. Luke took a deep breath and stood up. His voice trembled at first, but quickly gained strength. I know I'm young. I know I don't have your experience. And I'm not here to replace anyone or to have the final say in areas I don't master. But I believe I can contribute a different perspective. I grew up watching my mother work exhaustively for little pay. I saw firsthand how inefficiency, unnecessary bureaucracy and resistance to change harm not only companies but lives. I want to use technology to create fairer, more efficient systems that benefit not only shareholders, but everyone involved. If you give me this chance, I promise I will honor it with hard work and concrete results. The speech was simple but powerful. Paula Anderson nodded slowly. I respect your honesty, Luke, and your results speak for themselves. If Raphael believes in you, I'm willing to support it. Other executives began to agree, some more enthusiastically than others. Dr. Henry was the last. I still have my doubts, he admitted, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Just don't disappoint, kid. When the meeting ended, Luke was trembling. Raphael placed a hand on his shoulder. You did very well. I'm proud. Luke looked at the man who had become much more than a mentor. Thank you. For everything. For believing in me. Raphael smiled, emotional. No need to thank me. You deserve every opportunity you're getting. The news quickly leaked to the press. Billionaire businessman makes public school teen partner in multi-million-dollar company. Headlines multiplied. Reports on Luke's story, from the encounter on the plane to the partnership, dominated the news for weeks. Some praised the initiative as an example of true meritocracy. Others criticized it as disguised nepotism. Luke was invited for interviews on television programs. In one of them, a famous interviewer asked directly, Luke, some say you only got where you are because you were lucky enough to meet Raphael Miller. What do you say? Luke looked directly at the camera. Yes, I was lucky. Lucky to be in the right place at the right time. Lucky to have found someone willing to help me. But luck without hard work doesn't get anyone anywhere. I studied 16 hours a day for years. I gave up parties, leisure, a normal adolescence to pursue my goals. Raphael gave me opportunities, but it was I who transformed them into results. And I believe everyone deserves to have the same opportunities I had. The response went viral on social media. Luke became a symbol of a generation that believed in transformation through education and effort. Young people from peripheries across the United States began to write to him, telling their stories, asking for advice. Luke responded whenever he could, encouraging, guiding, inspiring. But not everything was rosy. At school, Philip Turner and his group intensified their attacks. Now Luke was the conceited one who had become a company partner. They spread rumors that he had stolen ideas from others, that he was being investigated for fraud, that Raphael was a manipulator using Luke to improve his public image. The lies were absurd, but they hurt nonetheless. It was Marianne, surprisingly, who publicly defended Luke. She had changed over those 2 years, matured, recognized her own prejudices. In a social media post, she wrote, I was one of the first to judge Luke when he arrived at our school. I thought he didn't deserve to be there, that he was stealing a spot. I was wrong. Luke is one of the most hard-working, humble, and intelligent people I have ever met. While many of us have everything handed to us and still complain, he built his path with pure effort. He deserves every achievement. The post had thousands of shares and helped change the narrative. Luke remained steadfast, focused on what mattered. He developed new projects, improved processes, and studied non-stop. But his biggest dream was yet to come. He had a vision, a project that had been maturing in his mind for months, something that could change the lives of millions of children like he had been, something that would transform everything he had experienced into a real and lasting legacy. The auditorium of the Javits Center in New York City was packed. Over 1,000 people eagerly awaited the launch of the project Luke had been secretly developing for the past 6 months. Journalists, investors, educators, government representatives, all there to witness what promised to be revolutionary. Luke was backstage, adjusting his tie for the 10th time. Raphael approached, smiling. "Nervous?" Luke nodded. "Very. What if no one likes it? What if it's a failure?" Raphael held the young man's shoulders, looking straight into his eyes. "Luke, you've created something extraordinary, something that will change lives. Believe in that. Believe in yourself." Luke took a deep breath and nodded. It was time. He walked onto the stage to deafening applause. The spotlight blinded him for a second, but he quickly adjusted. He looked at the audience and saw his mother in the front row with Gabrielle beside her. Christine had tears in her eyes, pride etched on her face. Beside them, Raphael held Leo, now 3 years old, who waved excitedly at Luke. "Good afternoon, everyone," Luke began, his voice firm through the microphone. "My name is Luke Harrison Smith. I'm 16 years old, and 3 years ago I was just another kid from Camden, New Jersey, a public school student with a dream that seemed impossible. Today, I am here to present to you a project that was born from my story, but that belongs to all the children of the United States who, like me, have talent but lack opportunities." The screen behind him lit up, showing images of children studying in precarious schools, without resources, without adequate materials. "Public education in the United States faces enormous challenges," Luke continued. "Lack of teachers, lack of materials, lack of technology. But the biggest problem isn't the lack of material resources. It's the lack of personalization. Every child learns differently at different paces. The current model treats everyone as if they are the same, and that leaves many behind." He clicked the remote control and the screen changed, showing a colorful and intuitive application. "That's why I created MathMind, a free artificial intelligence application developed specifically for personalized math education." The screen showed its functionality: explanatory animations, adaptive exercises, gamification, instant feedback. It was beautiful, functional, engaging. The application analyzes how each student learns, identifies their specific difficulties, and adapts the content in real time. If a child has difficulty with fractions, the system creates exercises focused on that, using examples from their daily life. If another child learns better with visual elements, the system prioritizes graphics and animations. The audience murmured, impressed. Luke continued, gaining confidence. But it doesn't stop there. MathMind also offers virtual mentoring. I created a system where more advanced students can help younger ones, creating a collaborative support network. And for teachers, we offer tracking tools that show exactly where each student is struggling, allowing for more effective interventions. A journalist raised a hand. "Luke, that sounds expensive. How do you intend to make it available for free?" Luke smiled. "Excellent question. The application is completely free for students and public schools. For private schools, we charge a symbolic fee, which sustains the project and allows us to expand access. Additionally, I secured partnerships with technology companies that donated servers and infrastructure. And Miller Tech, where I am a partner, is investing significant resources in continuous development." Another person spoke up, an educator. "And what about the quality of the content? Who guarantees that the information is correct?" Luke was prepared. "All content has been reviewed by specialized teachers, following the guidelines of the National Common Core curriculum. Furthermore, the system learns continuously. When a student makes a recurring error, the algorithm identifies whether it's an individual difficulty or a problem in the material. If it's the latter, human teachers review and correct it." The presentation continued for 40 minutes. Luke demonstrated functionalities, showed data from pilot tests conducted in 10 public schools in New York City, and presented emotional testimonials from students who had drastically improved their performance. An 11-year-old girl from Southside Chicago appeared in the video. "I always thought I was bad at math, but MathMind taught me my way at my pace. Now I love math and I want to be an engineer." Tears streamed down Luke's face as the video played. That was the realization of his deepest dream. Not the partnership in the company, not public recognition, but that. The real possibility of changing lives, of opening doors, of offering other children what he had received. When the video ended, the silence in the auditorium was heavy with emotion. Then one person stood up and began to applaud. Then another and another, until the entire auditorium was on its feet, in an ovation that seemed endless. Luke looked at Raphael, who was applauding with tears in his eyes. He looked at his mother, who was openly weeping. He looked at all those faces and felt immense gratitude for every moment, every difficulty, every victory that had brought him there. When the applause finally ceased, Luke delivered his final speech. 3 years ago, on a flight from New York City to Miami, my life changed forever. A baby was crying and I decided to help. I expected nothing in return. I just wanted to do what was within my reach. But that simple gesture created a connection that transformed into family, into opportunities, into everything I'm experiencing today. He paused, emotional. Raphael Miller didn't save me out of pity. He saw potential in me when no one else did. He gave me opportunities, but he also demanded results. He embraced me as a son, but never let me forget my roots. And now it's my turn to give back. Not to him, because our relationship goes beyond debts, but to all the children who are where I was, all who have talent but no chance, all who could be scientists, engineers, teachers, doctors, if only someone believed in them. Luke's voice trembled, but he continued firmly. MathMind is not just an application. It is a declaration. A declaration that origin does not define destiny. That talent only needs opportunity to flourish. That technology should serve to open doors, not to close them. This project was born from a personal need, from my need to learn math without a private tutor, without expensive resources. It was born from the nights I studied by candlelight because there was no electricity. It was born from my mother's love, who worked tirelessly to give me the basics. And now I hope it helps millions of children achieve their dreams. The auditorium erupted in applause again. Luke stepped down from the stage and was immediately embraced by Christine, who whispered in his ear, "I'm so proud of you, my son. You are everything I ever dreamed of and more." Luke hugged his mother tightly, smelling the familiar scent that reminded him of childhood, of struggles, of small victories that seemed enormous. "Thank you for never giving up on me, Mom. Thank you for teaching me that hard work and honesty are worth more than any shortcut." Raphael approached with Leo, who jumped into Luke's arms. "Uncle Luke, you were amazing." Luke laughed and kissed the boy's forehead. "Thank you, little champ." Raphael extended his hand, but Luke ignored it and hugged him. "Words aren't enough to thank you for everything you've done for me. You gave me a family, a future, a reason to believe." Raphael returned the embrace, emotional. "You gave me much more, Luke. You gave me purpose. You taught me what truly matters in life. You showed me that success without meaning is empty. You saved me as much as I helped you." The following days were frantic. MathMind was downloaded by over 500,000 people in the first week. Public schools across the United States requested partnerships. The Department of Education contacted them, wanting to implement the program on a national scale. Luke began to travel the country, visiting schools, talking with students, inspiring an entire generation to believe that it was possible. 6 months after the launch, the results began to appear. Schools that adopted MathMind showed a 30% improvement in math performance. Students who previously had failing grades began to excel. Teachers reported greater engagement, more interest, more hope. Luke received letters daily, messages of thanks, stories of transformation that made him cry with joy. On a Saturday afternoon, Luke returned to Camden, New Jersey. Not to the new house where his mother lived, but to the hill, to the community where he had grown up. He organized a free programming workshop for local children, teaching the first steps in technology. He sat on the floor of a community court, surrounded by 30 bright-eyed children, and taught basic algorithm concepts using examples from their daily lives. A 10-year-old girl timidly raised her hand. "Luke, do you think I can be a programmer too? Even from here?" Luke smiled, recognizing in that question the echo of his own doubts from years ago. "Yes, you can." "And do you know why?" "Because talent has no zip code. It doesn't matter if you live on a hill or in a penthouse. What matters is what you have inside you. Your desire to learn, your dedication, your curiosity. No one can take that away from you. And with the right tools, you can go as far as you dream. The girl smiled, her eyes full of hope. Luke saw in her a reflection of who he had been and felt a deep responsibility. It wasn't just about him anymore. It was about all those children, all those possibilities, all those futures waiting to be built. When the workshop ended, Luke walked through the narrow alleys of the hill, greeting old neighbors, reminiscing about stories. He passed by the house where he had grown up, now inhabited by another family, and smiled. That place would always be a part of him, no matter where life took him. Raphael was waiting in the car at the base of the hill. Luke got in, and the two drove in comfortable silence until Raphael asked, "How was it?" Luke smiled. "It was perfect. I saw in those children's eyes the same hunger I had, the same desire to learn, to grow, to be more. And you know what's even more incredible? Now I can help. I can be for them what you were for me." Raphael nodded, emotional. "That's what it's about, Luke. Life isn't about accumulating. It's about transforming, taking what you've received and multiplying it. You understood that better than anyone I've ever known." That night at home, Luke called his mother, and they talked for hours about the future. Christine said that Gabriel had been accepted into an art school, that she was developing an incredible talent for painting. Luke spoke about MathMind's expansion plans, about invitations to speak at international universities, about infinite possibilities that once seemed impossible. But at the end of the conversation, Christine said something that was etched in Luke's heart. "Son, you can conquer the whole world, you can become rich and famous, but never forget where you came from and why you do what you do. Promise me that," Luke promised, with the certainty of someone who knows exactly who he is and where he is going. And so, the story that began with a baby crying on a plane, with an improbable encounter between two completely different worlds, transformed into something much bigger. It transformed into a bridge between possibilities and achievements, between dreams and conquests. It transformed into living proof that empathy, combined with knowledge and opportunity, can change not just one life, but millions of them. Luke looked out the window at the lights of New York City twinkling in the night and smiled. The journey was just beginning. Dear listeners, we hope that the story of Luke and Raphael has touched your hearts as deeply as it touched ours in creating it. This is a narrative about transformation, about how a gesture of kindness can create waves that change entire lives. If this story resonated with you, we invite you to subscribe to our channel to receive more narratives that celebrate the strength of the human spirit, overcoming adversity, and hope. Leave your like if you believe, like Luke, that origin does not define destiny. And in the comments, share your own stories of overcoming challenges, of someone who believed in you, or of how you helped someone achieve their dreams. Every story matters, every voice deserves to be heard. Click here to discover our special playlist with equally inspiring stories that will make you believe in the power of kindness and determination. Every day we bring content that celebrates the best of humanity. Don't miss our next videos. See you soon, and remember, as Luke taught us, talent only needs opportunity to flourish. Be that opportunity in someone's life.